Sometimes I find obscure authors on Amazon Kindle. This is a really cool guy, a cool writer named Regis Sprockett, and he wrote a book called Awkward Abroad. He says, opening, life is a school, but I just want to play hooky. Excerpts from the diary of William Sprockett. He says he was inspired by Bill Bryson's Neither Here Nor There, Travels in Europe. He says, I have endeavored to paint a portrait of an American traveler who clumsily wends his way across several cultures, a comic vagabond at once gloomy and introspective like Edgar Allan Poe, and ridiculous like any American fraternity boy on spring break, with some Benny Hill and National Lampoon's European Vacation thrown in for good measure. So this is the story of a teacher in the early 1990s, a teacher from the Midwest who takes an unplanned sabbatical and travels to Europe in pursuit of romance and adventure. It's sort of a Bildungsroman, a book about one's youth and formative years, or a Wanderjahr, a year of traveling after leaving school and before starting one profession. But in this case, William, or Will, the protagonist, is about 30 years old. And he says, the origin of the word travel comes from the Latin root meaning an instrument of torture. And in this case, we see the problems that a traveler encounters. He goes from Kansas, he goes to Amsterdam, Rome, Istanbul, Athens, goes to Spain, and then he goes to England before finally coming home. And here's a quote from the book. Nevertheless, there was an itch in his heart, a desire to stretch beyond the secure comfort, across the border of complacency, suffer a little sublime pain, hit the bullseye of life's enchantments, scratch the dome of the firmament, yet sail wispily down back to earth and start again with a clear vision. His descriptions of small-town Midwest life are an amusing and authentic slice of 1990s Americana, though the town overall is in an early 1960s or 1950s time warp. The writer is full of empathy for the protagonist and has a sympathetic perspective on a frustrated man at a crossroads in his life. The description's sort of a cartoon-like character development and descriptions, putting you visually on the scene with rather odd philosophical ruminations, a hint at a psychedelic reality entering the mundane vertically, with skewed interruptions of the storyline. The American teacher-traveler is constantly pondering a maze of weird thoughts, but you'll be drawn gradually and uncomfortably into his peculiar psychological realm until you feel at home. Will began to feel, here's another excerpt from the book, Will began to feel curiously homesick. I'm homesick for nowhere, Will thought. I really don't want to go back home. There's no other country I want to visit. I just want to be home, and I don't know where it is. It's all the same. Wherever I am, I am. And it's just me. I'm not connected with anyone. It's sort of like being on the moon alone with empty, eternal space surrounding. I feel impermeable to those around me, completely cut off, isolated. My world begins and ends within my own mind. Oh, well, maybe it's just a hangover. So Will, the protagonist, is pathologically introspective. He's a traveling lone wolf. He's often melodramatic in his thoughts. It's annoying after a while, but you do feel you're getting to know him. He repeatedly invites you or burdens you with intimacy. You are inside the protagonist's mind with an omniscient and a first-person view. Another excerpt from the book. She proceeded to give him a 4-hour tour throughout the wonderful kaleidoscope day of Galata Tower, Yeni Jami Mosque, and Wimpy Burger, a McDonald's wannabe Temple of Greece. Their communication was comprised of single Turkish and English words, smiles, sighs, and deep eye contact. Hatice was a lovely, authentic girl. She had crusader green eyes and nicotine yellow teeth. Beauty equal to the principal concubine in the Sultan's harem. He tries, in this excerpt, he tries picking up a girl he sees on the bus in Istanbul. And this was way before the pickup artist method books. Decades ago, when a young man meeting a girl just used simple common sense approach techniques. It was natural back then. You didn't need a book or video to show you how. This was the 1990s. He succeeds in getting a companion and a free tour guide for the day, and she even pays for his lunch and tea. He's evolving while traveling abroad into a more socially confident man after the boredom and shyness and the failures back home in Kansas. Another excerpt from the book. All clean and ready, they examined themselves in the full-length mirror and then left the apartment with a bold gait like twin Casanovas. Stars were spread in black space over the strait. Shadows deepened the gloom at the edge of the grove. They whistled down the steep street, hungry for adventure. The swarm, the beaver swarm, Williams said. There's a lot of beautiful women waiting for us. They passed a fragment of Constantinople which had lined the street, ancient reddish bricks, 5th century mortar, and large stones put into place by sweating workers in ripped togas. Turning farther down a narrow alley, they were hemmed in by the leaning kosks, the blackened wood buildings that were crumbling in neglect, except for a few renovations which were brightly painted and livable. Will began to notice the moisture of the Bosphorus delicately caressing his nostrils. The homesick for nowhere pangs of feeling started to fade. So here in this excerpt, we have Will, the protagonist, finds 2 new English roommates, and one of them becomes his experienced wingman and pub crawling companion. They go out several times a week and try to pick up girls, and it wasn't very easy in Istanbul at that time. He learns a lot from Peter, the suave Englishman, who's an experienced seducer, and he realizes he'd been such a naive, nice guy back in the United States. Some necessary male bonding and apprenticeship occurred in this chapter. His descriptions are so avant-garde, Regis Sprockett, the writer. His descriptions are so avant-garde, unconventional, and his phrasing is initially confusing, like the creations of a deranged surrealist painter or a drunken architect or a sculptor on LSD. The sentence structures are angular and convoluted, intricately folded, twisted and coiled, a roller coaster of diction laden with casual speech, jarring with sophisticated fancy vocabulary, sometimes sounding very pretentious, and the text is overly descriptive with excessive use of adjectives and adverbs, sort of a pretension to sound like a 19th century novelist, with a little bit of Ernest Hemingway's clarity or just abruptness. Another excerpt. With the dizziness, a bluish pattern cloud hovered at moments through Will's field of vision. He caught views of their thighs, smiling faces, a breast here and there. They decided to go to a cafe for a drink. Inside, as the girls sipped coffee, Will had absolutely no ability to converse intelligently. Fighting the fatigue made no sense, but he ordered a strong cup of tea to wake up. The girls seemed to be fading and losing interest. He wondered if they were going to leave him. He tried to ask them about their school, future plans, and families. Looking this way and that, the girls became increasingly taciturn. Okay, so in this chapter in Athens, Greece, Will, the protagonist, is with 2 Norwegian girls he meets in his co-ed room at a youth hostel, and they are giving him a tour of the city, as they've been there for a few days and know it pretty well. And Will is new, but he's exhausted from a 24-hour bus ride from Istanbul. Once again, fatigue and confusion are fighting with desire and opportunity. He's got these 2 Norwegian girls. They want to give him a tour of Athens, and it seems great, but he's just totally tired. They're young and beautiful, and he can't believe how lucky he is. However, exhaustion was setting in, and he can't keep up the girls' enthusiasm to be tour guides for him. And he feels they're just getting bored with him. By the time we were about to leave for the train, here's another excerpt from near the end of the book. By the time we were about to leave for the train stop, the sun was up and bright. I was cheered to see it reflecting off Caroline's white Triumph car, the fields stretching into the distance, and the melted ice puddles at my feet. He had white horses, ladies dressed in satin by the door. So an English pop song played in his head. In this case, it's a paraphrase of an Emerson, Lake and Palmer song, Lucky Man. The song was playing in his head as he seated himself in her sports car. At the station, she gave him a kiss goodbye and wished him bon voyage, and he was relieved. So he's in England there. So the traveler, Will, from Kansas, finally, before going home, gets to England, and some of his idealistic fantasies are realized. So overall, this is a great travel novel, and very American in perspective, and very, very odd in the way, the syntax and phrasing and vocabulary, and it's hard to understand, but you get into the author's psychology and the psychology of the protagonist. So this is on Regis Sprockett, Awkward Abroad on Amazon Kindle. Thanks for listening.